Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 74 of Paul Heyman's TNA. This is the go-home week to Destination X 2011. So we've got the Impact and Evolve from week 4 March. But I do remember last week I didn't go through Evolve, so I'll just quickly run through what happened on that show now before we get into Impact. The show began with a video package promoting Chris Sabin and Kurt Angle in tonight's main event, before the Hooligans defeated Sean Spears and Tyson Dukes, picking up a much needed victory and celebrating their win afterwards. Rocky Romero was then interviewed with Mike Tenay. Not that good of a segment, but he put over his confidence at winning the match at Destination X and earning a TNA contract and a shot at the X Division Championship at Lockdown. The Beautiful People show then featured just Tara. She had specifically requested to be a guest and spoke about how potentially this was her last run and basically teasing retirement during this segment. Of course, she's currently a Knockouts Tag Team Champion, so it's not something that's going to be happening straight away, but she's saying that she's looking towards the end of her career. This is based on the fact that in-game she actually announced her retirement, so it was going to be about 3 months before she retired. I did speak with her and ask her to reconsider. I'm not going to tell you whether she did or not. The second match of the night saw Sonjay Dutt defeat Amazing Red, a rematch from the Ring of Honor Anniversary Show pre-show. We put that over on commentary. These two are now tied 1-1. Austin Creed joined Sonjay Dutt in the ring to celebrate the win before an in-depth interview with Kurt Angle conducted by Taz. He talks about tonight's main event, but also the mystery opponent for Destination X and in general his World Heavyweight Championship reign. We then get a live interview from Chris Sabin, who promotes the main event as a huge opportunity to prove himself, and while it's a decent match and he does give an okay showing of himself, he is decisively defeated by the World Heavyweight Champion Kurt Angle, who stands tall to end Evolve. A 71 again is just at the threshold that we need, but with Evolve out of the way, let's go into this week's episode of TNA Impact. And we begin with what the game describes as a terrible match, the fourth of those X Division qualifiers. Austin Aries defeating Jon Moxley, Ricochet and Tony Nese, pinning Tony Nese, who was by far the worst competitor in the match, and it is Austin Aries who will advance to that four-way at Destination X, and we see that his gimmick gets a great rating, the greatest man that ever lived. Unfortunately, that match really hasn't gone how I'd hoped, but Austin Aries is miles ahead of everybody else, so the right choice for him to win the match. It's a poor way to start the show and does take away the crowd's initial enthusiasm, so that is a letdown. And Jon Moxley in his TNA tryout seeming off his game. There's a lot of guys who, as much as they became great guys, at this point in 2011, they're not over, they're not that well known. Maybe that's what Ring of Honor as a TNA owned entity can become, but for now, it is Austin Aries with a brainbuster who is going to this Sunday's pay-per-view. As he has his arm raised in the ring, SoCal Val enters the six sides, looking to get her weekly interview with the winner of the match. However, as she looks to speak with Austin Aries, he rolls out of the ring, showing no interest in speaking with Val. The commentators aren't sure why he snubbed the interview, but do put over his impressive performance in the opening match. That leads into our first commercial break, and when we come back, Austin Aries is followed by the TNA cameras and approached by Jeremy Borash, who wants a word with him on his victory and also wants to know why he snubbed SoCal Val in the ring. Austin Aries does speak this time, but he tells Jeremy Borash that surely nobody wants to hear from a tryout. Destination X is this Sunday, and there's a contract on the line as well as a shot at the X Division Championship at Lockdown, so he's putting over that stipulation, and he says when he wins that match, everybody in TNA is going to know exactly how he feels. So establishing here a bit of a chip on the shoulder of Austin Aries, who despite struggling when going off script, is getting better at his already great gimmick and adds heat to the storyline. It'll be Austin Aries, Jack Evans, Kenny Omega and Rocky Romero fighting it out for a TNA contract this Sunday at Destination X. We then get an in-ring segment where we see Paul Heyman already inside the six sides as he invites Roderick Strong and then Samoa Joe out to the ring. Paul addresses the ending of last week's show, saying that when Impact finished, both men, Joe and Strong, came to him and they wanted Joe added to the Ultimate X. But it isn't just Strong in that match. All three guys earned their shot, and Heyman invites Kevin Steen and Tyler Black to the ring. When Black comes down, he is joined by Jimmy Jacobs, Kevin Steen of course coming down alone, and as there is 3 men in that match, he wants to put Joe's inclusion to a vote. Black and Jacobs both laugh, and Steen makes it clear that he doesn't feel Joe deserves a chance. It almost seems pointless that Paul Heyman would put this to a vote from the 3 competitors, knowing that 2 of them have no real reason to want to allow Joe into the match. But Heyman has one more thing to add, a little sweetener to try and convince them. He says that if Samoa Joe is added to the Ultimate X, he is going to make that match the main event of Destination X. He's clearly trying to appeal to the egos here, but Steen remains firm with a no. For him, it's just about getting that title, but he then continues to butter up the New Age, asking what kind of message they would send by standing tall. With so much gold at the end of Destination X, they could have the Knockouts title, the Knockouts Tag Team title, the World Tag Team titles, and the X Division title. He says to Tyler Black, wouldn't that make up for your failure in the last 2 months to become the World Heavyweight Champion? After a brief discussion then between Jacobs and Tyler, Black agrees. The 4-way is confirmed. It's a 2-1 vote. Loads of green notes for this segment, advancing the storyline with a solid 77. Happy with that, and it is now confirmed 4 men will face off in the Ultimate X, and that match will main event Destination X over WGT TV Kings of Wrestling, over Kurt Angle versus his mystery opponent. So a massive opportunity for the X Division guys to prove that they belong at the top of the card. Larry Sweeney and Sweet and Sour are then interviewed by Jeremy Borash. Speaking of the top of the card, they're there to talk about Kazuchika Okada versus Kurt Angle in the main event. Nick and Matt will be at ringside as Kazuchika faces the World Heavyweight Champion, and the main point of contention, the reason this match came to be, is that Sweeney has a massive complaint that he was the first person to contact Paul Heyman after the Open Challenge was announced, yet Heyman has picked somebody else to face Kurt Angle at Destination X. Why is that the case? Why is he trying to keep Larry Sweeney's clients from the top spot? Tonight, Kazuchika Okada may not have the chance to become the World Heavyweight Champion, but he does have the opportunity to prove people wrong. JB asks about Okada's less than favourable record in recent months, particularly since he lost the X Division title, and whether that will affect his confidence going into such a big match. Sweeney brushes this question off. He doesn't want to answer that. He wants to talk about what he has to say. He puts over that Sweet and Sour are a family, and they will find a way to work through any problems that they have, and that starts tonight. A decent segment again. Think just rated on Larry Sweeney's entertainment, maybe on Kurt Angle's overness as well, to be fair, but a very solid interview from them as we go into the second match of the night, and following a botched interference from Mischief, Mickie James is able to defeat Alyssa Flash in 11 minutes and 57 by pinfall, with that Mick kick that we've seen her use time and time again. Mickie James with a 62 was actually off her game, so we expect better from her at the pay-per-view. Alyssa Flash with a 42 and a 61 overall is a solid rating. Mickie James is then joined by Tara in the ring, the 2 women raising the Knockouts Tag Team Championships ahead of their title defense at Destination X. Appearing on the screen, Sara Del Rey and Daisy Hayes are shown in a location which is not within the Impact Zone, whether it's at a gym, whether it's somewhere else. Sara Del Rey says that she requested the night off tonight and she was granted it. But she didn't ask for it because she needed to rest up. In fact, she requested it for the integrity of the Knockouts division as a whole to be maintained. Awesome Kong, Mickie James, Tara, Hamada, Taylor Wilde, the list is endless. Women who are jealous of the Queen of Wrestling and fearful of what the New Age are capable of. Therefore, for the protection of Daisy Hayes, they've taken the night off from Impact. That doesn't mean they're not working, however, and Del Rey promises the best Daisy Hayes ever this Sunday at Destination X. While she doesn't have anything to add herself, Daisy Hayes' enthusiasm emphasises this point further. She's very much becoming an acolyte of Sara Del Rey, is what we've seen in the last couple of weeks. She looks up to this woman who, in her, let's say, 9 months since joining the company, has proved herself to be one of the very best female wrestlers on the planet. We then get an interview with AJ Styles. He's talking about his match on Saturday night on Evolve with Alex Shelley, but before I can speak too much about that, he is cut off by Mr. Anderson and Matt Morgan. Styles actually takes this well, saying that people are just going to have to wait to see how good Alex Shelley is for themselves, but he's glad that these two men are here. As well as being in action in the main event of TNA Evolve, AJ Styles is also bringing a surprise with him. At Destination X, Mr. Anderson and Matt Morgan will face AJ Styles and a partner of his own choosing, and Styles is bringing that man to Evolve 24 hours before the pay-per-view. Mr. Anderson looks forward to hearing and finding out who this man is, and says that they'll be there personally to greet him this Saturday at TNA Evolve. A decent segment, not great, but it does advance the storyline. Anderson benefiting from his catchphrase while AJ Styles struggles off script. The third match of the night sees Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe tune up for their pay-per-view match against Beer Money, against Rob Terry and Sean Bashir, and it is actually Bryan Danielson submitting Rob Terry, so a massive scalp for him to take in terms of size, a cattle mutilation, so hopefully the visual of Rob Terry tapping out to Bryan Danielson puts over the American Dragon as the threat that we know him to be. 275 ratings shows that these two men are very much on the same page, and while it's not that good of a match, we are happy to see those two pick up a dominant and decisive victory together. The post-match doesn't go so well for them, however, as Desmond Wolfe joins Bryan Danielson in the ring. The commentator is putting over the fact that he has made big Rob Terry tap out. No mean feat. Wolfe offers a hand to Bryan Danielson, looking to confirm that mutual respect. It's important to know that they can trust each other going into this Sunday's match. However, before Bryan Danielson can reciprocate the gesture, the forefathers make their way down to the ring. Usually ready with something to say for themselves, the group instead head down to the ring, looking to take down Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe. While the pair can fight back briefly, they're eventually outnumbered, of course, and taken down by the group. When Danielson and Wolfe are down and out, no chance of fighting back, Christopher Daniels takes a microphone from ringside and hands it to Robert Roode. Roode says that Danielson has done everything in his power to make himself loved in this company since he arrived. From the locker room to the management to the fans, he's kissed everybody's ass. On Sunday, he'll learn that none of that counts for anything, because when you step in the ring with Beer Money, it only ends one way. James Storm adds, "Sorry about your damn luck," as the forefathers stand over the unlikely duo of Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe. Heading to the back, Kurt Angle is interviewed about his match with Kazuchika Okada tonight, and the former X-Division champion's complaint that he was turned down for a title shot despite being the first to answer the World Heavyweight Championship Open Challenge. Angle turns to JB and says that he knows Jeremy saw the name on the card last week, and apart from Paul and Kurt, he's the only person besides the challenger himself who knows who Kurt will be facing this Sunday. Kurt asks JB if he understands why Okada didn't get the shot. Initially, JB tries to remain impartial, he's not here to give his opinion, but Angle pushes him to give him an honest answer, and JB nods his head. On Sunday, the whole world will see and understand why they didn't take a first come, first serve attitude for the Open Challenge. In fact, Kurt thinks that even Larry Sweeney will understand the business decision that was made. With that said, tonight is still an opportunity for Kazuchika Okada. If he can beat Kurt Angle, then he is happy to give him a title shot whenever he wants. But like he said to Chris Sabin, it's not going to be easy, and he doesn't see Okada standing a chance against him tonight. Nonetheless, we gain heat with a good segment. We then get another poor match, worse even I think than the opener, but with Isis the Amazon, or just the Amazon as we're calling her at ringside, Madison Rayne is able to decisively and dominantly defeat Shelly Martinez. Whether the intimidation factor of the Amazon at ringside did have any effect on that, who's to say, but the two are a good pairing and have some positive chemistry, so I'm really happy to see that, despite a poor rating for the segment. Once Madison Rayne has picked up the victory, she invites the Amazon into the ring to dispose of her opponent. The Amazon easily lifts Martinez to her feet with one hand before dropping her with a headbutt. Shelly rolls out of the ring as a smug Madison Rayne looks up to her enforcer. The commentators put over the edge that the Amazon gives Madison Rayne. Wherever she has found this woman, she has made a very, very smart decision to bring her in, and they tip her to be back in the title picture very, very soon. We then get a backstage segment with Mickie James and Tara. Mickie didn't want to talk about it earlier during the match or before the match. She wanted to have 100% focus on Alyssa Flash, but she wants to know about Tara's appearance on the Beautiful People show Saturday at Evolve. Mickie says that she was sat at home just like everybody else, and she was surprised Tara suggested this may be her last run. Tara has little to say, she's playing her cards close to her chest, but does remind Mickie that she's had her share of niggling injuries. She's really struggled in recent months, and she's happy to have had Mickie James by her side, but she has to consider her options. James retorts that she hopes this isn't the case because she knows that Tara still has it in her to be one of the best once again, but if she does feel that way, Mickie is honoured to be the woman who shares the end of Tara's career with her and vows to make this run the best of Tara's career. That starts on Sunday when one of them potentially leaves with the Knockouts Championship. A decent segment again as we go into a good match. I would have hoped for better from this, even though I do know that Haas isn't that good in terms of in-ring performances. I don't know whether it's just the mod or whether it is the case that Shelton Benjamin carried their team, but he does actually pick up a victory in 15 minutes and 24. A fast roll-up is enough to defeat Claudio Castagnoli, and we could say at some point here that the 75 rated Claudio Castagnoli gets a little bit cocky. He thinks he's got the match won when Haas shocks him from out of nowhere. Decent wrestling and great heat, getting the crowd interested again, which we very much needed. I forgot to mention, during the match we cut to a picture-in-picture or whatever, and we see that Chris Hero and Shelton Benjamin, who were watching the match on monitors in the back, have now started brawling. They're pulled apart. The agreement was made pre-match that neither of them would get involved, and because of that, Charlie Haas celebrates in the ring. The commentator's putting over, though, the key point here: each member of Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team now holds a pinfall victory over a member of the Kings of Wrestling. We also mentioned that pull-apart brawl, so Hero and Benjamin nowhere to be seen as Haas looks down the camera and reminds everybody of the 1-2-3 he had just scored over Claudio Castagnoli. This Saturday at Destination X, the Kings of Wrestling will defend the World Tag Team Championships against Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team. Angelina Love and Velvet Sky segment, they're shown on screen, each holding a microphone, and after the scoop they got from TNA Evolved, their show's hot, everybody's talking about the Beautiful People show, so they want to follow that up with more exclusive news, and to do that, they're heading into the Knockouts locker room. With the women caught off guard as they enter the room, they're not happy to see Love and Sky, particularly bringing cameras into the room, but of course the Beautiful People don't care. They approach Maria Kanellis and say that the Beautiful People show is the best platform to reveal big news, just like Tara did last week, and they want to know when the big day is for the wedding. They want the worldwide exclusive announcement. Maria looks down, and she explains that with Jay's recent issues, he's not been feeling the best in the last few months, and the wedding hasn't been their number one focus. Maria says she doesn't have a date for the wedding. There will be no announcement. The Beautiful People are kind of annoyed by this. They wanted to have that on their resume, but they say that they did warn her about Jay months ago. The guy's a loser. Why is she getting involved with him? Why is she going to marry that man? But then Velvet says that's not our problem. With an upset Maria behind them, they then sign off on the Beautiful People show extra live from the Knockouts locker room. So again, putting over the shallowness of these two women, something that's very clearly emotional for Maria. They don't care. They turn back to camera and sign off on their show. And again, we're establishing the minor issues in the relationship between Maria Kanellis and Jay Lethal as they continue to focus on planning their wedding. We then get Paul Heyman joining commentary prior to the main event to promote Destination X. He actually stays on commentary for the main event. It's a decent segment, losing heat to the main storyline, so not really doing what we wanted it to. Maybe if we'd have scripted this or Taz had been able to improvise better, it could have been a really good way to promote the show, but Paul splits his focus between the 4 championship matches on the card, the potential winner-takes-all match in the Knockouts division between Daisy Hayes and Sara Del Rey and Mickie James and Tara, the Kings of Wrestling versus WGTT for the World Tag Team titles, Kurt Angle's World Heavyweight Championship Open Challenge, and the Ultimate X 4-Way, which will main event the pay-per-view. With the help of Maro and Taz, they then run through the full Destination X card, which we'll just put on screen here. And of course, I always put these at the end of the show before the pay-per-view, but that main event is one that I'm really looking forward to, as well as the reveal of Kurt Angle's mystery opponent. Not something I'd usually do on a pay-per-view, an unannounced opponent, but I feel like with who this is and with the pay-per-view that it is, it's going to be something that's kind of cool and a little bit different, which is what we want Destination X to be. We then get Kurt Angle defeating Kazuchika Okada, 12 minutes and 25, making him tap out to the ankle lock. It's a really good main event. Credit to Kazuchika Okada for hanging with him, but Kurt Angle is very much on another level. That 91 is what we want to see on this Sunday as well. Larry Sweeney doing well at ringside and getting the crowd buzzing, and it's quite a simple way to end the show actually. Often we'll have these huge brawls or some crazy segment to try and get you to buy into the pay-per-view, but instead tonight it's just Kurt Angle having his arm raised, the go-home show to Destination X closing without incident, while he stands tall with the World Heavyweight Championship. Paul Heyman, who, as I said, remained on commentary for the main event, further promotes this Sunday's Destination X, with the Ultimate X set to be the main event of the X Division focused pay-per-view. Paul Heyman has one final announcement in the final moments of Impact. He tells viewers they cannot afford to miss a second of this Sunday's Destination X, because the open challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship will open the show. The reason they're doing that is to raise the bar from the very, very first match. There'll be just one message to the rest of the TNA locker room after that World Heavyweight Championship match: follow that. For months, for the whole series, Kurt Angle has been the very best wrestler. At this next pay-per-view, he opens the show and the pressure is on everybody else to deliver. We've delivered there with an 80 rated Impact. Very, very happy with that. A great way to finish off the build to Destination X. I say that, we of course have Evolve to look through. I'll go through that in a moment. Like I've said, I'm really happy with this pay-per-view, giving the pay-per-view a different feel, which I think that it needs. A great way to showcase the X Division, but it can't just be a one-off. This has to be the launch pad, a sustainable, continued, consistent way of seeing the X Division now as raising back to that level that it once was. But before the pay-per-view, of course, we have that 12th episode of TNA Evolve, which begins with Taylor Wilde defeating Mischief. She's then joined by Hamada in the ring, and Flash is pissed off by Mischief's defeat, continuing the issues from Impact where Mischief's botched interference cost Alyssa Flash against Mickie James. We're also told that a Knockouts Tag Team #1 contendership tournament will start next week to find out who will face whoever the champions are at Sacrifice. A video package then looks at the history of the X Division, talking heads from former champions including Chris Sabin, Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. Alex Shelley then promotes his main event match with AJ Styles tonight, before Douglas Williams picks up a surprise victory over Jay Lethal, perhaps the humiliation from Impact playing on his mind, but he tries to make it up to Maria and he announces the date for the wedding. We know how upset Maria was, and he says they'll get married at Lockdown. He doesn't get the reaction he wants, however, as Maria tells him, "I'm not getting married in a cage," and storms off. Jay Lethal trying to do the old wrestling wedding there. Maria just wants to have a nice day, it seems. Mr. Anderson and Matt Morgan then tell everybody that they have their eye on that main event. Paul Heyman comes out to promote Destination X, Kurt Angle joining him, and they confirm an X Division original as Kurt Angle's opponent this Sunday. I always like to have Paul Heyman come out on the final show before a pay-per-view. AJ Styles then defeats Alex Shelley in the main event. Matt Morgan and Mr. Anderson typically come out for AJ after the bell, but are run off with a chair by AJ Styles' partner for Destination X, Jerry Lynn. These guys fought together on the very first show in TNA history. They were former tag team champions of the company, each former X Division champions, and they will face a formidable duo in the shape of Mr. Anderson and Matt Morgan. Despite a not very good main event, a 64 rating, the show does get a 72, which I'm relieved about, and as of the airing of that show, we are 24 hours from Destination X. I won't go over again how excited I am, but you can see the card on the screen for yourself, and hopefully everybody is looking forward to Destination X 2011. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.